Hello guys and welcome to EverlastCyber. In today's video we'll be going through some practice questions for the CompTIA A+ certification exam. This video will focus on questions from Core 1 and those questions would cover mobile devices, networking, hardware, virtualization and cloud computing, and hardware and network troubleshooting. A point to note is that this exam comes in Core 1 and Core 2. So after passing Core 1, you will need to still pass Core 2 in order to get the full certification. So we'll be diving right into the questions. Question 1. A technician is troubleshooting a laptop that intermittently shuts down during use. The fan is audible, but the device remains hot. What is the most likely cause? A. Failing hardware. B. Malfunctioning CPU fan. C. Faulty RAM module. D. Outdated BIOS. A failing hard drive would more likely cause booting issues or data errors. However, it wouldn't cause overheating or the system intermittently shutting down as we have in the scenario here. In this scenario, the fan is audible, but the laptop remains hot and shuts down intermittently. This suggests that although the fan is spinning, it may not be functioning properly. For instance, it might not be spinning at the correct speed, which would make it not cool effectively, or it might not be directing airflow properly due to dust buildup or improper seating. Faulty RAM module would usually cause boot failures, crashes, or blue screens, but it wouldn't cause overheating. An outdated BIOS could cause hardware compatibility issues, but this is less likely to result in overheating and shutdowns. So out of these options, a malfunctioning CPU fan would be the most likely cause of the laptop intermittently shutting down during use. Overheating is a common reason for intermittent shutdowns in laptops because thermal protection mechanisms will force shutdown in order to prevent hardware damage. Question 2. A user reports unusual pop-ups and slow performance on their PC. Which malware type is most likely responsible? A. Ransomware. B. Spyware. C. Adware. D. Rootkit. A ransomware encrypts files and demands payments. It doesn't usually cause pop-ups or gradual slowness of the device. An adware is designed to display unwanted advertisements, and this is usually in the form of pop-ups, which could slow down system performance because it consumes system resources and bandwidth. A spyware secretly collects information, and this may slow down performance, but it doesn't generate pop-ups. A rootkit conceals malicious processes and it does not produce visible symptoms like pop-ups. So this wouldn't be our answer. Out of the options, the one that is most likely responsible for the unusual pop-ups and slow performance would be option C, adware. Question 3. Which CPU cooling method uses a liquid-filled loop to transfer heat away from the processor? A. Heatsink with fan. B. Thermal pad. C. Liquid cooling system. D. Passive heat sink. A heat sink with fan uses air and not liquid to dissipate heat, so this wouldn't be our answer. A thermal pad helps to transfer heat between components, but it doesn't actively cool the components. A liquid cooling system uses liquid-filled loop to transfer heat away from the CPU to a radiator, where it is then dissipated, and this is typically done by fans. A passive heatsink relies on natural air convection and not liquids or fans. So, our answer here would be option C. The liquid cooling system is more efficient than air cooling, especially in high performance or overclocked systems. Question 4. Which of the following is a characteristic of Wi-Fi 6 802.11ax? A. Operates only on the 5 GHz bands. B. Uses OFDMA for improved efficiency. C. Maximum speed of 1 Gbps. D. Requires WPA3 encryption. Option A would be incorrect because Wi-Fi 6 operates on both the 2.4 GHz and the 5 GHz bands. The Wi-Fi 6 802.11ax introduces orthogonal frequency division multiple access, and this greatly improves efficiency, especially in high-density environments, because it will allow multiple users to share a channel simultaneously. Option C would also be incorrect because Wi-Fi 6 actually supports theoretical speeds well over 1 Gbps, depending on the configuration. In option D, WPA3 is actually recommended, but it is not required for Wi-Fi 6 operation. So, the characteristic of the Wi-Fi 6 802.11ax is that it uses OFDMA for improved efficiency. Question 5. Which of the following pairs represents multi-factor authentication combining two different types of authentication factors? A. Password and security question. B. Password and fingerprint scan. C. PIN and one-time password sent to phone. D. PIN and retyped PIN. Multi-factor authentication usually requires two or more different types of authentication factors, and these factors come from either something you know, which can be your password or your PIN. It could be something you have, such as a smart card or a security token, and it could also be something you are, which will be your fingerprints, your retina scan, facial recognition. That's majorly biometrics. Looking at option A, both the password and the security question are both something you know. So this is not a combination of different categories. Password is a secret you memorize, and security questions are knowledge based. Since multi-factor authentication requires different types of factors, option A would be a single factor authentication. So that's not our answer. Option B comprises of password, which is something you know, and then a fingerprint scan, which is something you are. This combines two different categories of authentication factors. So this would be the multi-factor authentication. But let's look at the other options. In option C, a PIN is something you know, and an OTP sent to a phone is something you have. This can also be a valid example of multi-factor authentication because it combines knowledge and possession factors. In option D, a PIN and a retyped PIN are both something you know. So retyping a PIN does not count as a separate authentication factor. This would also be a single factor authentication. Now, if we look at option B and C, they appear correct, you know, but for the sake of this question, option B fits more to what we're looking for. So the password is something you know, and then the fingerprint scan is something you are. That is your biometric. Option C could also be correct. PIN, which is something you know, and the OTP to a phone, which is something you have. So option B and C are actually correct. Question 6. Which Windows tool would a technician use to check for and repair corrupted system files? A. Disk cleanup. B. Check disk. C. SFC scan now. D. Task manager. Disk cleanup frees up disk space by deleting temporary files. However, it doesn't repair system files. Check disk checks the file system and disk surface for errors, but It doesn't handle system life integrity. The SFC or System File Checker tool run with the command sfc/scan now scans the Windows system files for corruption, and it also replaces damaged or missing files with correct versions from the system cache. A task manager is used for monitoring running processes and performance, but it does not repair files. So our answer here is option C. SFC/scan now. That is a Windows tool that a technician will use to check for and repair corrupt system files. Question 7. A desktop PC fails to display video after a power surge. The PSU and motherboard power lights are on. What should the technician check first? A. RAM modules. B. GPU. C. Hard drive. D. CPU. Faulty RAM can cause post failures or beeps, but usually the system won't power on or it will beep. In this scenario, the PSU and motherboard power lights are on, but the video is not displaying, so RAM modules would not be the answer. Since the power supply unit and motherboard power lights are on, the system is actually getting power. So a power surge could have damaged the graphics card, causing no video output. So checking the graphic card first is logical because a failed GPU often causes a no display issue, even though the system powers on. Hard drive failures don't usually cause no videos. It mainly affects booting into the operating system. In option D, CPU failure is rare and it would likely cause the system not to power on. But in this case, the system is powering on, it's just that the video is not displaying. So our answer here would be option B. Checking the graphics card would be the first thing you should do because it's the graphic card that outputs video. Question 8. A user reports that their smartphone screen has a flickering display. Which component is most likely failing? A. Battery. B. Digitizer. C. GPU. D. LCD panel. Battery issues would cause power or device shutdowns, but it wouldn't cause the system flickering we have in the scenario here. A digitizer controls touch inputs, but not the display output itself. While a GPU problem can cause display issues, smartphones use integrated chips. So the flickering is most commonly an LCD hardware or a connection problem. In option D, which is our answer, screen flickering is most often caused by a failing LCD panel or its connection. The LCD panel is responsible for displaying the image on the smartphone, and hardware faults or loose cables can cause this flickering. Question 9. A technician needs to deploy a wireless network with the least interference in a crowded office. Which 802.11 standard operates in the 6 GHz band? A. 802.11 AC. B. 802.11n. C. 802.11 AX. D. 802.11G. The 802.11 AC only operates in the 5 GHz band, so this wouldn't be our answer. 802.11n operates in both the 2.4 and the 5 GHz band, but it doesn't operate in the 6 GHz band, so that's not our answer. The 802.11ax is an extension of the Wi-Fi 6 that operates in the 6 GHz band, and it offers more channels and less interference, especially in crowded environments. In option D, 802.11g only operates in the 2.4 gigahertz bands. So our answer here would be option C. This extension of the Wi-Fi 6 offers more channels and less interference, especially in crowded environments. Question 10. A workstation randomly shuts down during heavy load. The PSU is rated for the system's wattage. What should the technician check next? A. CPU thermal paste. B. RAM compatibility. C. HDD health. D. BIOS version. Random shutdowns under heavy load often indicate overheating. So even if the PSU is sufficient, even if the power supply is sufficient, poor heat transfer between the CPU and its cooler can cause overheating and shutdowns. In option B, RAM compatibility usually causes system crashes or failure to boot, but it doesn't cause shutdowns under load. For option C, a failing hard drive doesn't cause shutdowns under heavy load. So that's not our answer. And in option D, while an outdated BIOS can cause issues, it is less likely the immediate cause of shutdowns under load. Cycling back to option A, checking and reapplying CPU thermal paste can improve the cooling efficiency. So poor heat transfer, which is caused by degraded or missing thermal pastes, can cause overheating and shutdowns. So this should be the first thing that the technician should check. Question 11. Which characteristic is an advantage of an NVMe SSD over a SATA SSD? A. Lower cost per gig. B. Higher durability. C. Faster data transfer via PCIe. D. Compatibility with older motherboards. NVMe SSDs are generally more expensive than the SATA SSDs, so option A is out of it. Both NVMe and SATA SSDs have similar durability because they use the NAND flash memory. So option B applies for both of them. This is not what distinguishes them. In option C, the NVMe SSDs connect via the PCIe interface, and this provides significantly faster data transfer speeds compared to the SATA SSDs. Now, as a result of this, it has better performance, especially for high-speed data access and for large file transfers. So this is a great advantage of the NVMe SSD. In option D, the SATA SSD are actually more compatible with older systems. NVMe, on the other hand, requires newer motherboards with PCIe M.2 or U.2 support. So our answer here is option C. The advantage of an NVMe SSD over a SATA SSD is faster data transfer via PCIe. Question 12. What is the purpose of a digitizer in a modern smartphone? A. To process cellular signals. B. To convert touch inputs into digital signals. C. To enhance battery life. D. To provide GPS functionality. Cellular signals are usually handled by the cellular modem, so that's not the function of a digitizer. A digitizer is a component that is beneath the smartphone screen, and it detects touch inputs like taps or swipes, and it converts these inputs into digital signals that the device can understand and respond to. For option C, battery management is done by power management circuits, while GPS is handled by the GPS module and not the digitizer. So our answer here is option B. The digitizer converts touch inputs into digital signals. Question 13. Which port is commonly associated with secure LDAP? A. 80. B 389, C 443, D 636. Port 80 is for HTTP. Port 389 is for standard LDAP, which is not secure. But in the question, we are asking about the secure LDAP. Port 443 is for HTTPS, which is secure HTTP, not LDAP. While option D, 636, is used by LDAP over SSL/TLS to provide a secure and encrypted connection. So our answer here is option D. Question 14. Which cloud service model provides a developer with access to runtime environments and libraries? A. IS, D. PaaS, C. SaaS, D. DaaS. IaaS, or Infrastructure as a Service, provides a virtualized hardware resource like server storage, but it doesn't provide runtime environments. The PaaS, or Platform as a Service, provides developers with runtime environments, tools, and libraries that are needed to develop, test, and deploy applications without managing the underlying infrastructure. So, with Platform as a Service, developers can focus on writing their codes while the platform handles the operating system, the middleware, and the runtime. For software as a service, it delivers fully functional application to end users, but not a development platform. While desktop as a service provides a virtual desktop environment, and this is totally unrelated to development platforms. So the correct answer here will be option B, platform as a service. Question 15. A technician needs to dispose of old lithium-ion batteries. Which method is most environmentally compliant? A. Recycling at a certified e-waste facility. B. Incineration. C. Disposal in regular trash. D. Storing indefinitely. Lithium-ion batteries contain hazardous materials and they should never be incinerated or thrown into regular trash because they can cause fires, they can cause health hazards, as well as environmental contamination. So, recycling at a certified e waste facility will ensure proper handling and it will also ensure recovery of valuable materials as well as environmental safety. From what we've explained, we already know that incineration is out of it because if we try to incinerate these batteries, it will release toxic fumes, and this is highly unsafe. It is also illegal in many places to dispose of these batteries in regular trash because it is harmful to the environment. And then storing indefinitely is not practical or even safe for long term due to potential leakage or fire risk. So the most compliant method will be option A, recycling at a certified e-waste facility. Question 16. A company wants fault tolerance with the highest performance using only two drives. Which RAID level should they implement? A. RAID 0, B. RAID 5, C. RAID 1, D. RAID 10. RAID 0 offers performance improvements by stripping data, but it doesn't offer fault tolerance. RAID 5 requires at least 3 drives, and this provides fault tolerance with parity. In the question, it is stated that the company wants fault tolerance using only 2 drives. This would be the RAID level that they should implement will be RAID 1 because RAID 1 mirrors data across 2 drives, providing fault tolerance. So if one drive fails, the data is still available on the other drive. It also offers good read performance since the data can be read from either drive, and it requires exactly 2 drives, which matches with the scenario we have. RAID 10 requires at least 4 drives, so that's totally out of it. So our answer here is option C, RAID 1. Question 17. A user's smartphone battery drains quickly even with minimal use. What should the technician check first? A. Screen brightness setting. B. Background apps. C. Faulty battery. D. Outdated OS. Screen brightness settings can affect battery life, but usually it is noticeable and it is easy to adjust. Background apps running continuously can consume significant power even if the phone is idle or lightly used. A faulty battery should be checked after rolling out software courses, while an outdated OS may cause inefficiencies, but it is less likely the immediate cause of quick battery drain. So, what the technician should check first is the background apps that are running, and that is option B. Question 18. Which hypervisor runs directly on the host hardware without an underlying OS? A. Type 1. B. Type 2. C. Hybrid. D. Container based. A Type 1 hypervisor runs directly on the host hardware without the need for an underlying operating system. So these hypervisors, they are also called bare metal hypervisors because they don't require any host um, software to run. A Type 2 hypervisor runs on top of a host OS like VMware Workstation or VirtualBox. Hybrid is not a standard hypervisor classification, and the container-based virtualization runs as the operating system level. So it is not a hypervisor type. There are just two types of hypervisors, which are type 1 and type 2. And the one that runs without an underlying OS is the type 1 hypervisor, also called bare metal hypervisors. An example of a type 1 hypervisor is a VMware ESXi and the Microsoft Hyper-V. Question 19. A laser printer produces faded prints. Which component is most likely failing? A. Fuser assembly. B. Toner cartridge. C. Transfer belts. D. Pickup roller. Fuser assembly usually causes smudging or the toner not properly fused, but it doesn't cause fading as we have in the question. Faded prints usually indicates that the toner cartridge is running low or it has a defect, resulting in insufficient toner being applied to the paper. Transfer belts problems can cause streaks or blank spots rather than general fading, while the pickup roller will affect paper feeding but not the print quality. So the component that is most likely failing in this scenario is the toner cartridge, and that is option B. So replacing or refilling the toner cartridge will resolve these faded print issues. Question 20. A technician is building a gaming PC with a high-end GPU. Which PSU rating ensures stable power delivery under heavy load? A. 80 plus bronze. B. Non-modular. C. 80 plus gold. D. 350 watts. The 80 plus bronze is less efficient, but it may still work. However, it is not optimal for high-end setups. Non-modular refers to cable designs and not efficiency or power stability. The 80 plus gold certification ensures that the power supply unit is energy efficient and it can deliver stable power under heavy loads, while the 355 watts is an insufficient wattage for a high-end GPU. So our answer here is option C, the 80 plus gold. The high efficiency rating will reduce wasted energy and heat. Question 21. A PC emits one long and two short beeps during startup. What does this indicate? A. RAM failure. B. GPU failure. C. HDD failure. D. PSU failure. RAM failures usually have different beep patterns, so it would have a continuous beep or multiple short beeps. The beep code, one long beep followed by two short beeps, typically indicates a video error during power on self tests. So this is most likely the issue, but let's check the other ones. So a hard drive failure usually does not produce beep codes, and a power supply issue would prevent the system from even powering on in the first place, so it doesn't cause any beeps. So our answer here would be option B. When the system emits one long beep followed by two short beeps, it indicates a video error or a GPU error during the power on self test. So this means that the graphic card is not detected, or it is faulty, or it is not seated properly. So um, the technician would need to check this. Question 22. What is the purpose of assigning virtual CPUs to a virtual machine? A. To allocate physical CPU cores exclusively. B. To reserve RAM for the virtual machine. C. To define how many CPU threads the virtual machine can use. D. To limit network bandwidth. Virtual CPUs do not guarantee exclusive physical cores because they are virtualized and shared. For option B, RAMs are assigned separately and it's not usually via the virtual CPUs. Assigning virtual CPUs to a virtual machine specifies the number of CPU threads or cores that the virtual machine can use for processing. So this helps to manage the CPU resources shared among multiple virtual machines on the host. In option D, network bandwidth is managed separately from CPU allocation, so that's not our answer. The purpose of assigning virtual CPUs to virtual machines is to define how many CPU threads or cores that the virtual machine can use, and that is option C. Question 23. Which attack involves intercepting data by tapping into an unsecured wired network? A. Phishing. B. Tailgating. C. VLAN hopping. D. Packet sniffing. Phishing involves tricking users using fake emails or websites in order to steal their credentials. Tailgating is a physical security breach where someone follows an authorized person into a restricted area. VLAN hopping exploits VLAN configurations in order to gain access to traffic on different VLANs, but it is not general wire level eavesdropping like we have in the question. Packet sniffing involves intercepting and analyzing network traffic, and this is done by tapping into an unsecured or poorly secured wired or wireless network. The attackers use packet sniffers to capture sensitive data from the packet, such as login credentials or unencrypted communication. So, the attack that is described in the scenario is option D, packet sniffing. Question 24. What type of cable can be plugged into these ports? A. 3.5 mm audio jack. B. RCA cable. C. Firewire. D. Lightning cable. For these ports, the cable that can be plugged in is a 3.5 mm audio jack, and that is option A. This is the standard port for audio cables for headphones and speakers. Question 25. What type of cable do you need to plug into these ports? A. HDMI. B. DVI. C. VGA. D. eSATA. Our answer here is option C. VGA connectors and ports are usually blue in color and they do not support audio. They have 15 pins arranged in 3 rows of 5 pins each, and they carry only analog signals. So that's our answer there, option C. This brings us to the end of the practice questions and answers for the CompTIA A Plus certification exam. Remember, this is just the questions for Core 1. I'll be sharing the questions for Core 2 in an upcoming video, so don't forget to like, comment, and share. And also hit the subscribe button so that you'll be informed when the Core 2 video will be dropping. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.